Hi, here I come with what many people would say is the best pale ale in the world. Edward from Farmstead. This was filled 9 days ago, and Edward is usually like 5.2% alcohol. I believe I've had it a bunch of times on tap. This is my first review. I never did a review. I've definitely gotten a growler before, but for some reason didn't do a review. And I really, really like Edward. A lot of people do. It's on tap at just about every good beer bar in Vermont half the time. And it's like, I guess one of their first beers they ever did at Hill Farmstead. And it uses mostly the classic C hops. Maybe they threw a few newer varieties in there, but it's still all about like citrus and pine, but done in a hazy or fruitier New England style way. But it isn't extremely super juicy and all that. And it seems I remember having some malt character last time I had it, and it's a tad dark, but not that dark. So I don't know exactly how fresh this is, because it's literally always available at the brewery. But I think it moves quick enough that this is really fresh, even though it's been in the growler for 9 days. And I always struggle to figure out how to pour these wacky growlers. I think I can do it. It's been sitting in my fridge the whole time, and it looks pretty good. Decided to do the non-stem glass because I like to do that with these straight up pale ales, especially ones that aren't double dry hopped and really strong and basically IPAs. This one I think fits in the pale ale category pretty well. And at least the top of the growler, you can see the top of the growler was not extremely hazy. When I've had this on tap, it's been hazier, but I can actually see through there a little bit, especially when I hold it up to the light. Has a nice, very pale amber golden glow. Lots of carbonation still. Beautiful head. Got big soapy bubbles because I poured it a tad hard, but I can tell it's gonna stick around a while. It's like really fine bubbles. You can probably see on the side there that there are lots and lots of bubbles. And it smells delicious. It's got a lot of floral, deep kind of rose-like aromas mixed in with the citrus and the very light, fresh pine. I think it's a lot of the same ingredients as a lot of pale ale, West Coast, more bitter pale ales, but done in just a very, very different manner. Yeah, there aren't too many beers that smell like this that are hazy New England hoppy beers, because they usually, if there are some of the classic C hops, Chinook, Columbus, all that, there'll be a bunch of newer hops mixed in with it. But this one, brings in that great classic hop aroma, and there's even a touch of caramel malt or something in there, moving it towards like a slightly sweet, purple drinky, grapey thing also at the same time. The closest thing to this, actually, now that I think about it, is Austin Street's flagship pale ale, Patina. That one is a little bit paler and I think a little bit more bitter, but that one also uses just the classic C hops, and the head is still sticking around beautifully. And it smells like a little bit minerally, like it's going to be refreshing. Yeah, with it not being so hazy, doesn't have as thick of a mouthfeel as I remember it, but it's got lots of fruity flavors in it. There are aspects of English pale ale. This is also, it almost reminds me of like some older English style pale ales, but made with American hops that I was drinking like 10 years ago. But once again, done in a more intense, fresh way with all the haze in there. Like it is a little bit English to me. And the head adds some nice foaminess to the feel at first. And finishes so dry and minerally, almost as crisp as a lager. But of course, there's lots of lingering fruity esters. It's pretty apricot-y. It's like some dried sulfured apricot in the finish. Probably not quite Not quite peach. Apricot is probably closer. With lots of grapefruit, but candied grapefruit with a touch of caramel in there. Almost near apple pear esters too, a bit. Really interesting. I assume they use the same yeast or yeast blend for all their pale ales and IPAs that aren't, wild barrel aged or anything like that. But this is really different from their stronger beers like their Abner and even like Susan and some of their stronger IPAs. Those seem to be a lot fruitier, much more tropical, but of course they use Citra, Simcoe, and beers like those. This actually, I guess, reminds me quite a bit of the Simcoe Pale Ale that I got a bunch of cans of, but done with a bigger mixture of hops. It's different, definitely a little bit darker, but it has that really fresh kind of grassiness. I feel like the Simcoe Pale was a little bit grassier than this one, but yeah, there's some grass happening. And a little bit of toasty malt just on the edge of caramel, just suggesting a teeny bit of that. Maybe they used a little bit of crystal. Probably not crystal, probably caramel, which I've learned the caramel malt is basically just like a kind of a mixture of malts. At least maybe I'm getting this wrong, but it's like half crystal, half caramel mixed together or something like that. I just read an article in Beer and Brewing magazine about this. Maybe it was like simplified a little too much. But this beer is extremely gulpable, and if it's served well, some restaurants who get this in Vermont, they're not like really into serving beer in the best way, but if it's served well, you should have a cap of foam and some nice lacing going down the entire glass like it is in this glass, even though this one was not super clean. There were some bubbles stuck to the bottom. I think there would have been even better head retention if this glass were a little cleaner. But I feel like this beer just scratches everyone's itch. Anyone who's a hop lover, it can appeal to people who like the old Northeastern style of like an English IPA or English Pale Ale, but with a lot of American hops that bump it up, but it's got the haziness and the much intense fruitier quality for the New England style, but it hits you with a nice dry bitterness and the classic resinous, woodsy, citrusy hops of, the Pacific Northwest and, Southern California style beers. That's probably why it's so beloved. I was wondering if they're going to can this, but if they can this, it probably would sell out in like a day. I don't know. They might keep Edward and Abner, they're two like most popular hoppy beers, as special growler only things. Maybe not. I don't know. But there's definitely lots of citrus flavors I haven't even mentioned in this, but pretty sweet. It's like this with the juice and sweetness within a little bit of rindy bitterness, but the rindy bitterness is not taking over. It just dries it out, adds some complexity and zesty qualities, but you still get all those fruity flavors. Yeah, the 4.5 for this beer, it's fantastic. And I feel like it's still not even that far off from Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, just a little less caramely, crystally malt. It's very, very good. Hopefully they'll just happen to can it the week that I plan to go, whenever I plan to go again. Goodbye.